need for sustainable energy sources under the aegis of photovoltaics on podcast decreations and YouTube channel decreations resources. So we've just understood that the energy requirement of world is increasing. Now here you need energy sources which are not only going to provide energy but which are going to provide clean energy, because the conventional energy sources like oil, gas, coal, etc. have lot of limitations and disadvantages. These are called fossil fuels, and these are limited in quantity, and also they cause environmental pollution. So obviously we need to think of alternative energy sources. Before we go to alternative energy sources, let us try to understand why there is a need for them. So what is the scenario with fossil fuels? So there are, as we mentioned, there are fossil fuels like coal, petrol, diesel, kerosene, natural gas, etc. And these fossil fuels are obtained from biologically degradable materials like plants, animals. But it's not a short term process. It happens only after millions of years of heat, pressure, chemical and biological reaction, and only after that these fossil fuels were in the form that we know today. So basically, since formation of these fuels takes a very long time, it's not very easy to generate them as per our requirement suddenly. Now, amongst these fossil fuels, coal is basically a product of natural process of decomposition of organic matters buried in swamps, and it has been out when it has been out of contact with oxygen. So there's no contact with oxygen, and in that situation, when it is under those swamps, it is formed. Now it has different forms like peat and ignite, bituminous, anthracite. So depending on how much carbon content it has. Now, when you say there is larger carbon content, for example, in anthracite, there is large carbon content, it is equivalent to high energy content, and hence the coal which gives high energy content is called high quality coal. So that is about coal. Now, if we talk about oil or crude oil as it is called, of course, it comes in a liquid form, and it's a complex mixture of hydrocarbons and some inorganic elements like sulfur, oxygen, nitrogen, etc. But we can't use it directly. The crude oil cannot be directly consumed, it needs to be refined to get various products like petrol, diesel, kerosene, or some solid materials like nylons, paints, plastics, etc. Now, apart from that, so coal is solid, oil is liquid, and there's a gaseous state, natural gas. So it mainly contains methane, but along with that, it also contains ethane, propane, etc. And it is found along with crude oil, but there could be some reserves where it is obtained, even though crude oil is not obtained there. Now there are even some other fuels like tar sand and oil shale. So these are basically naturally occurring semi-solid and solid forms of petroleum, and they have cross-linked chains of hydrocarbon. So they are more stable, and oil shale is also sometimes called as kerosene. So when I say shale, SHALE, it's a solid form of petroleum. And when it is heated, kerosene decomposes and gives crude oil. Also, we have something called as tar sand. Now it is a viscous tar. It is found in porous sandstone, and synthetic crude oil can be obtained from that. So these are basically the situation or the scenario, I can say, of the fossil fuels that we have. And of course, the reason why we are thinking of alternative resources is because of the environmental impact of these fossil fuels. So they are basically carbon based, and hence when they are combusted or when they are burnt, then they cause a lot of pollution. We'll talk about it in the next segment.